In 1752, Jacob von Braam and George Washington would become Fredericksburg Masonic brothers, and their names are recorded in this minutes book. The next year, they would change the course of history.
Welcome to Heroes of History with your host, Norman Voss. In this episode, how George Washington and Jacob von Braam brought forth our country.
1752 was a very trying year for 21-year-old George Washington. You see, the previous September, he went on a 4-month journey to Barbados with his older half-brother Lawrence, who was fighting tuberculosis. But while there, George contracted smallpox and was bedridden for a month. Lawrence passed away in July of 1752, and young George was very distraught, as Lawrence was a father figure to him. George's own father died when George was 11. Lawrence left a young wife and daughter, and young George was in charge of settling his estate, which included Mount Vernon. After Lawrence's death, young Washington traveled to Williamsburg to meet the Royal Lieutenant Governor Dinwiddie to see if he could become the Adjutant General in Virginia. And what is that? There were only 4 because Virginia was separated into 4 different districts, and they were in charge of the militias to prepare and train them for frontier defense. So this is the setting in Washington's life, where he now enters the Masonic Lodge to take his oath.
Washington and von Braam took their Masonic oaths together in Fredericksburg, and von Braam served with George's older brother Lawrence. He also knew French, which is why George brought him up to the Ohio country with him. Washington then leads 160 men back up northwest. As he nears, he also partners with the Seneca Indians, who are led by a man named Half King. Half King tells Washington the Frenchmen are spying on them. So Washington, Half King, and their men all march through the dark of night in a torrential rainstorm and surprise the French.
The French go for their muskets, and Washington orders his men to fire upon them, killing about 10 Frenchmen. Their leader, the Monsieur de Jumonville, is reading the French declaration to the British when Half King comes up to him and scalps him, cutting off the top of his head. Other Frenchmen are scalped as well.
About 7 miles from Jumonville Glen, Washington and his men find a clearing and build what is called Fort Necessity. They quickly made defense against the full force of the French that are assured to attack them. And on July 3rd, 1754, the attack begins.
And they are led by none other than Captain de Villers, the brother to Jumonville. It is an intense battle, and a torrential downpour ensues, and at the end, the French ask if Washington will surrender, and he agrees. And here's where Jacob von Braam comes back into play. The French asked for a surrender, and it was George Washington's only surrender in his military career. So they wrote up the Articles of Capitulation, or his surrender agreement. And in it, it states in French that he assassinated Jumonville. But von Braam, his French wasn't that good, and he just told Washington that Jumonville had died or lost his life in that attack. So on July 4th, 1754, 22 years to the day of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, 22-year-old Colonel George Washington, a representative of King George II of the British throne, admitted to assassinating a French diplomat, causing the French and Indian War, which then led to the Revolutionary War for the United States of America. How did it come about? Through Fredericksburg's Jacob von Braam and George Washington.
And interestingly enough, during the Revolutionary War, von Braam served for England, while George Washington led America.